New theme for the Kenny and Paul show. Live from Uncommon Studios. Paul Shaffer is a genius. There's no one like him on the planet or in the universe. Like Superman, he probably came from a different planet with amazing superpowers. The combination of his ability to always create and play the right thing on his instrument, connect and communicate and collaborate with the greatest artists and musicians in the world, his amazing band, the audience, and people like David Letterman and Lorne Michaels makes him uncommon. Now, uncommon is being 100% authentic. Paul is that guy. His perfectly unique personality and unstoppable passion and desire to always make things right on so many levels, including his gift to feel and understand everyone in the room, makes him even more uncommon. He has it all and does it all, from Godspell to Saturday Night Live to Spinal Tap to the David Letterman Show for 33 years, and musical director and producer of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction since its inception in 1986. People obviously love Paul, and it's more than just how well he plays his instrument. He motivates the room and inspires musicians to perform at their highest level. He really cares, and everyone can see and feel that. Musician, composer, singer, actor, author, personality, music director, producer, and host, and a wonderful human being with so much love and joy in his heart. Paul Shaffer has made millions and millions of people feel great, smile, laugh, and glad to be alive. So, Paul, I've watched and heard you play on TV for many, many years, and then I got to play drums for you and be part of the world's most dangerous band for Late Night with David Letterman when Anton Fig couldn't make it. So having you as a special guest on my podcast makes me very happy, and I'm honored that you said yes, so thank you.
Well, first of all, I'm in tears. I've never had an intro like that. I don't know if I can go on. Really, that was beautiful, though.
Thank you.
And yes, we've known each other so many years and have played together for so many years. Did you do Letterman when we were I don't know, did you do it back in the
NBC?
Wow.
The first time I did it, I'd flown
with my band or with Mellencamp?
With you. I filled in for Anton for a week in the NBC place. And the very first day, I'm crapping in my pants on so many levels. But that first day, David forgot I was playing drums and had me come up and do stupid human tricks.
Oh, I love it. Isn't that hilarious?
I'm sitting center
You're
stage.
in the bit. Did you know before the air that he was going to do that?
No.
Or he just said, come on.
I think he said, Anton, come up. What it was, he wanted David to tie a yo-yo on his toe while he was doing his handstand looking at a mirror. And David said, I don't do that. Anton, come up. And he went, oh, yeah, Kenny, come on up. And you said, go, because I looked at you like, you're my boss, really. And you said, no, go.
What a pro.
So I went up there, and, the close to guy's feet's doing this, and Dave's going, come on, get that thing tied on. I finally get it tied on, and I'm standing. He says, now go back and do a drum roll. I mean, it threw me way off, but first day.
That is hilarious. It reminds me of when we had Mel Gibson on the show. I was in a similar position. We were doing a running bit called May We Turn Your Pants into Shorts. And that's what we were doing, just thinking, Biff, stage manager, come on out here. Yeah. And we just, David and I, he included me, and with scissors, would just cut off his pants and make shorts. I was told to, wear pants you don't care about this day because we're going to be making it. And then it was Mel Gibson. Let's turn his pants into shorts. And something, I was rushing, and I cut him with the scissors and drew blood.
Warrior.
I drew blood, yes, and he didn't like it at all. And I could feel it. And I will usually have a different ending for this joke, but it's not a joke. It's true. But, but I can't do that ending anymore the way things are today. Nonetheless, I think I'm responsible for all his problems because he just hated me after that. And later I ran into him in a restaurant, maybe 6 months later, a restaurant in New York. And he looked at me and he said, the slasher. Ah! I slashed him.
You got a name of him.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy was road warrior.
It's treacherous. It was treacherous sometimes on that Letterman show. But obviously, you came through, and it's so great. You looked at the band leader. What should I do? It's very,
What else are you gonna do? I mean, you're my boss, and I'm like, for the people who don't understand, and this is what it makes you brilliant and a genius. People don't realize you make it. It looks so easy. There's a guy up there waving his hand, counting people. People watching this. I mean, first of all, Paul's talking to us. We have ear monitors, and Paul is talking. And on that show, that week when I was subbing, I remember we have all these walk-on music and walk-off music for the guests. And I'll explain that to the people listening, what that's like. But you're all of a sudden making switches. No, forget about this song. Let's go to this song. You just call something up. And I remember one song you called up. I went, I don't know it. And then Will Lee turned around and went, I don't know, James Brown or something.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I mean, as you going, 1, 2, 3, James Brown. And I went,
you were there. I bet you were right there.
Oh, I was. But I was crapping my pants. And another thing that people need to know is like on that week, just so people know, we get there's not a lot of time. We run this insane theme that you wrote, which we'll talk about in a bit, which is incredible. We get through that. Then we run through this, so people know before it even goes on air, we're playing Limp Bizkit song or a Green Day song. Or,
yes. I was being encouraged to, update the repertoire.
Yeah. And then we go to the theme at letter A to bring David out.
Yeah.
And then it's like, now do.
That's the warm up.
That's the warm up. So I'm going to give a scenario. There was a guy called, there's a comedian, Jeff Stilson or something.
Yes.
So,
I remember him.
So this is what Paul does. Okay, we got bringing on Jeff Stilson. Okay, Stilson. Crosby, Stills, Nash. Stilson, Stills. Crosby, Stills, Nash. Okay, let's do Sweet Judy Blue Eyes. Okay, we'll start with Okay, then you come in. Okay, 3, 4.
But everybody, because everybody knew it, and you knew all the songs too. That's why you were ideal. I didn't want to have to write things down, in the old-fashioned way. I got guys that just knew all the songs that I knew and loved, and we all loved them. And that was the basis of it. I think you could hear that too.
The
love that we had for a James Brown record or something. Now today, Stills, you'd have to play something by Stephen Stills' son, really, if you wanted to be accurate with Stilson. David Crosby has a son, mine's still working. Haven't done the show in 8, 9 years. Still thinking about the play-ons. And where are the cuts? What can we cut? That's my TV mentality.
Yeah. Well, you're the expert at it, and you made it so real. That was what made that band the best band on TV, because of that. It just felt like a real band. It didn't sound like a TV band. It was a real band.
That's the biggest compliment. Yeah. Well, we weren't reading, but once we got a horn section, all of a sudden you have to start writing down things. You have to have charts. And it does, I really was trying, even with the horn section, to get them to be as loose as the rhythm section, be as spontaneous. And you got to know the songs. I had with horns, it got difficult too, because at least in my, 10 years ago, 10, 20 years ago, the good horn players were the studio players, and they may be the slightly older jazz-oriented players who didn't know, rock and roll, didn't like it. So how could I have them in the band, So then you've got guys who do know it, but they don't necessarily have the chops of these brilliant, studio musicians that I was working with. But they say, well, why can't I play, let me come down and play a show. I would say, well, let's say a guy, let's say Jude Law was going to be on, let's do Hey Jude, 2, 3, and he's just I said,
He does
you've
not.
got to know Hey Jude
Yeah.
to play in my
Hey,
band.
Jude.
Yeah, that's all there is to it. You just have to know it and be able to play it on the horn. That's all I ask. Not asking too much.
But I have to say, when the first time I played, you sent me a song list. It was 350 to close to 400 songs. I'm like, Paul.
But I just said, well, pick 5 of these.
Well, I picked 30.
I remember that now. Yes.
I'm a
Well,
over the
that is
top.
how.
Yeah. And I wrote charts for everyone.
That's you. I mean, I didn't realize that. My God, I really did you a disservice. But this is what I saw you talking about on YouTube. You write everything out. How many rock drummers do?
Not the
Steven Adler? Is he writing out every? No, I don't think so.
Well, here's the reason why. So, like, I got off a Joe Satriani tour last year. I had 80 songs I had to do for 2 big, big events like what we do when we do those big things where you have to do 25 songs. That's 50 right there. Then I had to do something else. Somehow it came up to 80. I can't memorize 80 songs.
No, you can. Well, but that's a pro. Who else would do? Not only do you write them out, then you read them.
And to make it sound like you're not playing live.
Well, and or you're not reading.
We did something.
Sound like you're not reading.
Yeah, that took me about 25 years. I remember I had to learn a 3-hour show with 9 hours rehearsal for Melissa Etheridge, and they'd been on tour for 3 years. So they wanted to switch drummers. I went, there's no way I can memorize 3 hours. So, because I was doing a lot of sessions. So I wrote everything out. She turned around one night, very nicely, because she's so cool. She goes, I can tell when you read. I went, that's not good. So I learned how to step out of myself and watch and listen to me like I'm a producer and go, do you sound like you're reading? Because if you think about it, if you're spending 25% of your brain focusing on reading, that's 75% left to be in flow and natural. So I went, this is not good. You never want to sound like you're reading. Make a mistake, but don't sound like you're reading. And so from that day on, I started to exercise.
How do you do it?
Listening to myself like I'm in the audience.
Okay, and critiquing it and say, so once you say, yeah, I sound like I'm reading, then what do you do? Try not to.
Try not to.
Don't sound like that.
Be live, be natural, be cool. Whatever it is, do not sound, whatever music you're playing, if it's Zeppelin, be John Bonham, but do not sound like you're reading. Because it's a little stiff. And so what if you miss a few notes? It's the energy and the vibe, especially on the drums, man. It affects the whole band. So that took me to the next level.
You own that level.
I'll do like Kings of Chaos, which is a super group that's so cool. And, it's like Gilby Clarkson. It played with Guns N' Roses and, and then all these incredible musicians that are in it. And then they have special guests like Robin Zander from Cheap Trick. And they'll bring in, just all these incredible, like maybe Ann Wilson, Billy Gibbons, whatever. And they feature these people. And I've got this stuff written out and I could see them saying, God, this guy reads. Yeah, well, when you come up to me, like Dee Snider said, hey, can you bring it up from 138 to 139? Sure. Put the program. He walks on stage. It's 139. Hey, let's do it.
I never would have thought that Dee Snider would be so tuned into the metronome and the value of a quarter note. But you see, you never know people.
Yeah, oh my God. And so you want to be able to make them feel like when they get on stage, they're comfortable. And oh my God, this guy did exactly what I told him to do. Hit that accent there. I can't. Dude, Kennedy Center honors. Sting comes up to me, and we're honoring Springsteen. He comes up to me just about when the curtain was about to open, and he's the final guy doing the rising with the chorus in the background. He goes, hey, on that breakdown verse, da 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 da.
Up for the rise.
Da, 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 da. He said, it was just piano on him. He said, could you keep the hi-hat going?
Oh.
I go, hi-hat, circle it. It's Sting. So, because he's all kind of loosey-goosey, so I'm going, keeping it there. I didn't want to miss that. And you're going 7 artists in a row. Bam, 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 bam. And the president's there, and that shows.
Oh, that's a wonderful show. Yes.
Very high pressure. You don't want to.
High musicality, high level of musicality.
Yeah. I'll tell you, man. You're like the greatest musical director. I mean, you just know how to deal with everyone and keep it loose and be, people don't realize what you're doing. You're not just a musician up there. You're dealing with David. You have to you're the go-between the band, the audience, David, the stockholders, whoever. You're the guy and you have that uncanny ability to know about all this stuff and a million things that I don't know. And you keep it all together. And that's why you were there for 33 years. They wanted you there for 33
You
years.
know a lot, though. As I was reading about how you do the Kennedy Center, and you said, I got to know everything. I got to know when a guy's coming on.
Yep.
I got
you read that.
I read all of that.
Oh, yeah, I write down Don Henley walks this way, Billy Joel walks that way.
Right.
I count off when Tom Hanks says, and next week, and I go 3, 4, or I even write down who has to tune their guitars. So what if I'm doing this Merle Haggard tribute and there's 2 guys that have to retune their guitars? I can't count off because they start the song.
Oh, you got to wait for that.
So I got Don Was, the musical director, looking at me. I'm like,
good, yeah.
and I got the click going, and I'm looking at them, and I'm letting everybody know, it's like what you do. It's like,
so you're giving away here really something that not everybody realizes, and that is that the drummer is the true leader of the band. No matter if
under
Don Was or me or anybody doing it, you've got incredible power. And as you said before, if the drums don't feel good, then nothing feels good. And that's the way. And if the drums feel good, then you got something.
Yeah.
And that's all there is to it. We dance to the drums. And the drummer, every song, the drummer is like running a mile.
Oh, yeah. That part is easy for me. It's just
the physicality is easy.
Yeah, easy.
Pretty good.
I could do 3 hours full on.
Wow.
It's not a problem.
Are, yeah.
It's just, I want to be impeccable, and I'll practice the most basic stuff, it's like I do tons of sessions in here for people who have no, record deals, and so I practice the night before so that when I record, I'm performing. I'm reading, but I want to perform. I don't want to be learning. It used to be you walk in, they put the song up because we had big budgets back in the days, and these rooms are like 2,000 a day, if not more. And they play the song, you're writing it down. Or Nashville with the number system, it's like 2 takes and you're out there. But if I can get the music ahead of time, I can chart it out. I like to run the night before so then when I record, I'm performing. It's more fun for me. And it sounds like you're performing. It's more organic.
Well, of course, that's what we're aiming for, yes. Well, you said what, in the era? I did sessions in the era, did I hear that?
No, I said,
okay.
I said I did sessions, back in the day, maybe I said,
Well, something like that, yeah. But I got a tinge of sadness, as if the days of live musicians getting together in a studio, or maybe even not getting together anymore, playing their parts individually, but at least live going down. Are you saying those days are coming to an end?
Well, because of budgets, and I saw the writing on the wall, was suddenly I was doing a Michelle Branch record, and I listened to the recording. I said to John Shanks, the co-producer and co-songwriter,
he's great.
Said, dude, I said, this sounds like a finished record. He says, it is. You're the last thing on. So I had to tweak my drums in a whole different way. Usually I use a 24-inch kick drum. I went to a 22, took the front head off. So it would be, I was trying to find where sonically I could place my kick drum and snare drum, where usually they work everything on top of me.
Yeah.
But in this
case, go on last because they've been working
in a home studio.
Yeah.
Where it's cheaper. And then with John.
And then they move into a studio where they can
do drums.
Yeah.
So I did a session for him, maybe a couple years later, 13 songs in one day. I was in Philly, on tour with Michelle Branch, took a red eye to LA, came in and did 8 Alanis Morissette songs, 1 Melissa Etheridge song, 2 Anastasia, 1 that I think John was working with John Resnick from Goo Goo Dolls, and 1 was for somebody else. No artists were there. 13 songs, took a red eye back to New York to do a TV show. And that's when it was becoming even more apparent. It was cheaper to have 1 day in the studio with a good drummer. It can do 13 songs for 5 projects, than to spend 2 days, if not more, with each artist, and you're cutting costs. And that's when I went, that's why I moved from Indiana, got my drums out of New York, Nashville, Indiana, and came here. And I realized this isn't going to get better because people aren't buying records anymore.
And there's that too. But at least you put your drums on last. Some people don't even bother with the drums.
Oh, well, yeah.
You have them already.
Yeah.
I've got Phil Collins' snare going here. I've got, Bonham's foot.
Oh, yeah.
And what more can
Oh,
you
yeah. Oh, man, it's just the technology is advancing. So, I just love recording. That's a big part of what I do. So I have my studio here on Common Studios, and
Yes.
people send me files. I just did, 3 songs the other day. I got another 5 coming up for another record. I love it. It's what I do. So, yeah. So, all right. So I know you grew up, or you were born, you lived for a little while in Toronto, then went to Thunder Bay, which, by the way, I did a drum clinic up there once.
Wow.
I mean, it was like pretty remote.
It's way up there, and it's not close to anything. Yeah, Thunder Bay. That's where I grew up. I'm surprised there were enough drummers there, but it's kind of interesting.
Is that a logging community?
Well, the 2 industries were, yes, pulp and paper.
Yeah.
Because there were paper mills.
Yeah.
And shipping. They would bring grain across from the prairie provinces, stored in grain elevators in Thunder Bay, loaded on Lakers, take it out the Great Lakes. Yeah. And that's so the majority of the people worked for either in one of those 2 industries. And my dad was a lawyer.
Yeah.
Servicing those people.
Oh, yeah.
Representing them in accident cases or writing their wills and stuff. And so you went just to do a clinic.
Yeah, I was on a Canadian drum clinic one. I'd never been, across all Canada. So I did that. So when
just you alone, any other?
Yeah, nope. Just doing my presentation.
That kind of sounds lonely, especially the hotel up in Thunder Bay after the clinic.
Yeah,
my God. Have some Canadian beer in the bar.
Yeah. Is that where Shania Twain's from?
She's from a place which I've never been.
There,
Timmins, Ontario.
Timmins. I did one there too.
Oh, sure, yes. Well, they've got a museum, I think, to her. Shania Twain.
They should.
Museum in Timmins. Yeah, they sure should.
They sure should, man. When you started taking piano lessons, were you self-taught first, or did you just go to piano lessons?
Both simultaneous, I think. I had one lesson. Well, first of all, we had the piano in the house,
There you go.
And my mother played. But as soon as I started playing, she stopped. She never played again. It's like her work was done. She got me into it. But at 6, she started me on lessons. And I came home from a lesson, and immediately I started figuring out tunes. First tune, this theme from The Lone Ranger, the William Tell Overture. I found you could play it all on the black keys. The same day as my very first lesson, all of a sudden it showed me there were keys. What did I know? It's
Did you have perfect pitch?
No, but I have, relative pitch.
But how did you know it was the black keys? You could have played it on.
I don't know how, but the black keys, there's only 5. That's your pentatonic scale. It just seems so. I just fell upon it, and everything to a kid was the Lone Ranger.
Yeah, of course.
And then rock and roll hit on the radio, and all of a sudden there was a music that I could really relate to. And it's so simple. The chords were really simple.
Oh, yeah.
To all those early songs, and they still are. It's almost by definition. You can't get into flat 9s or the chords of the standards, the 40, my parents' music, but you sure can hear Elvis, Jailhouse Rock, and you can hear, and I started to find chords.
Yeah.
So I was kind of self-taught at the same time. And then I think the key, you said you had an epiphany, mine, I guess, was realizing that what you're learning in your piano lesson and the theory, it's applicable to rock and roll.
Right.
And it's all about tension and release. And that 1-4-5 is really tension and release. You go 1, is sort of home. And
home, and then you get
or a little more tension. 5, the most tension. 5-1 is, you're coming home. And I found it fascinating. And then it was all about trying to find out what chords. Luckily, most of the chords I had only those three. Most of the songs.
Yeah.
I could play all those songs.
So what was on the turntable? What were your parents listening to?
Well, my dad, this conservative lawyer up there, way up in an isolated town, but loved the great jazz vocalists. And
like a Sarah Vaughan, Ella Fitzgerald.
Sarah was her, more so than Ella, but was my dad. Sarah, Billy Eckstine, and Ray Charles. My own father turned me on to Ray Charles.
So
pretty,
too.
Good for you, pretty hip. So this leads me to
and that's.
Yeah, I got to tell. Well, and the organ, that hearing that Ray Charles organ with no Leslie, the way he had just the straight sound on, the outskirts of town and some of those things. Yeah, just the.
What was the first time you played an organ? You didn't have an organ in your house.
No, but I remember so clearly because and I wrote about it in my book, and I see your book there. Let's plug it. Mine was out, I don't know, 10 years ago.
Yeah. Is it called Memoirs? No, it's got a great name.
We'll be here for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. That's a great
title. That story, quickly that title came from when I was playing, right after college, playing in a topless bar in Toronto, and which they had live bands at that time in bars before DJs.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm, all of a sudden, all my friends want to see me play for some reason. All the guys are so interested in coming down to see me, because it's a topless bar. And I'm a little, excited about it, but embarrassed too. And I said, well, thanks for coming down, We're here.
How old are you?
We'll be here for the rest of our lives. I was about 19, 20. I was underage, terrified, growing a little mustache to try to look older, and playing really the circuit that we read about when we read about Robbie Robertson and Levon and the band. Yeah. Those clubs, those tough bars up there in Canada, just as authentic as you might find in Arkansas, I think. That's why they had that in common, I think, those guys from Southern Ontario. So I had that experience. Organ, though, in the synagogue, they had a fashion show with an organ, like a white-haired woman who played organ with full vibrato, accompanying the ladies of the ladies' auxiliary modeling. Yeah. And she left her organ there. And I was there, for Hebrew school, and there was this thing, and another kid, slightly older, another piano player, figured out how to turn it on. And there the two of us sat figuring it out, and it was magic because the note lasted as long as you held the key down. I'd never,
What a concept.
Yeah, I mean, I never forgot that. That would have been, I was about 12, playing that Hammond organ. Really related to it. I don't know why. Well, that's the main reason, I guess.
Had you heard Billy Preston at that point?
Well, I heard him when he came out, but certainly, up in Canada, we didn't get every record in the store. I had to order the wildest organ in town, Billy Preston's album, produced by Sly Stone.
What?
In San Francisco. Those cats were working together.
Sly Stone
produced Billy Preston, yes. And did you know that on, I think, If You Want Me to Stay and stuff like that, that was Billy Preston playing that. Those electric piano on a lot of that stuff.
Good. First of all, I recorded with Billy Preston once, and I had never heard, because all the stops, everyone can create their own sound. His sound was so unique. It was so eerie. It was a Joe Cocker record, and it was I was like, it stunned me.
He was a master.
Never heard anybody with
absolute master. So this is something I've only told a few people, but very first SNL, I was in the house band of Saturday Night Live.
Right.
First 5 years.
Not musical director, just a keyboard.
Yes, keyboard player. But Howard Shore was the name of the musical director.
Right.
Now an Oscar-winning film composer. But I was a pianist, and I also wrote what we in back in the day called special material. Like if a host was going to sing a song, I would work on that with the writers and stuff. So that was but I got these white Elton John glasses. And so I didn't care. I loved Elton John so much. I was just wearing his trademark myself. And yet I worked for, I would stand out in these.
I think I remember they were huge.
So we're talking about how the first guest, they had two musical guests, the very first show of SNL.
Wow.
Janice Ian, who had at 17 at the time. Yep. And I'll never forget watching her sound check. And she said, who got a little feedback? And she roll off to about 200 hertz. And wow,
Well, she knows.
that impressed me. And then Billy Preston was playing a mostly clavinet because he had, I don't know if it was Nothing from Nothing, but one of those great songs. And he had a great organ player, though, like from the church.
Yeah.
And that second keyboard player.
Yeah.
And in between shows, I just went over there and I just looked at those stops and wrote those down.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, and I've been,
You didn't have an iPhone?
Not back in 1975, of course. I'm still trying to remember. Just take a picture of it.
Yeah.
But no, I wrote down the stops of it, and it has magic all these years, just knowing that, how Billy Preston's organ player.
I could support you on that. It was nothing I'd ever heard before. It was like, it stunned me. All these great musicians, my ears went right to him.
Yeah, he was magical. I got to play with a few times with him. Not that time, because he had his own band.
But how old were you when you started your first rock and roll band?
Well, I joined an already existing band, and it was just a cover band, because that's all we knew. And I think, the Guess Who.
Of course, they're from Canada.
Winnipeg, the next town over. And they played our town.
2,000 miles over.
They're always I think it was only 500 miles, but they played our town all the time. They said they would stop on the way home for Christmas. They would play Thunder Bay and make enough money, make about $100, and buy Christmas presents. But they were, before they had their own hits, they were this marvelous cover band.
Oh, wow.
That played, with Burton Cummings, who became, if he sang Georgie Fame, he sounded like him. If he sounded, Little Richard, he sounded. And Randy Bachman on guitar, amazing,
Amazing.
Cover band, though, that was our sort of a model. So we were playing tunes by the Young Rascals and stuff.
Right.
And I was 15, I guess, when I joined it, and we were called the Fabulous Fugitives, only because there was a television show called The Fugitive on television. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
So that was my first band. Yeah, nothing.
And what songs did you got? What covers were you doing back then?
Singing, you mean?
Well, just covers.
I mean, all the Young Rascals stuff,
That's some good stuff.
And I think when
sing? Were you the singer?
I sang, no, I was not the lead singer, but I would sing a couple of songs. Yeah. I can't remember which of them were the tunes.
Love is a beautiful thing.
Oh, it makes your heart want to sing.
Love is a beautiful thing,
so beautiful. Yes, we were absolutely doing that.
Yes. He was a great drummer.
What you know
about
love. Did you play in a cover band initially?
Yeah. Okay, well, I saw the Beatles. My thing was I saw, Ed Sullivan, saw the Beatles. I turned to my mom, who are those guys, the Beatles? I want to play in the Beatles. Call them up, get them on the phone. I'm done with the piano lessons, it's drums.
You were ready to play and you said, call them up.
I said, I didn't know what else to say. I want to be in that band. And of course, she didn't call them up. But we started a band called the Alley Cats. And of course, we had a piano player
who could play that.
And he had perfect pitch.
And you had to play.
And I think I did brushes. And I didn't even have my parents didn't buy me drum sets. So my mom, she was from the Bronx, and we grew up in the Berkshires. So, we went down, she got a snare drum and a cymbal from Manny's. That was it, not even a bass drum. And the guy said, she says, I don't know, my kid, he's 10 years old. She says, Mrs. Aronoff, if you want to return this $20 drum, I'll give you your money back. I mean, that's old school. And I still got that.
Great story.
I still got that snare drum and the drum set in the.
You didn't return them. No, you could thank him for that.
So we did Beatles.
Yeah.
We did Beatles and Beach Boys. And I didn't even have a bass drum. I'd stand up and play and
love it.
Yeah. I mean,
well, here I wanted to tell the stories about the Beatles because I did get to much later on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction when Paul McCartney really got Ringo as a soloist into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And he said, if you induct him, I will come and make the speech. So now you have the two living Beatles, and Ringo was going to be inducted. And I was going to be the house fan. Now, as a sideline, I call Will Lee, the biggest Beatles fan in the world.
Oh, yeah, they got the Fab Four.
And I say, Fab Four is his Beatles. He's had a Beatles tribute band, essentially, really. For 20 years, they've been in his. So I said, Will, we're Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is in Cleveland at such and such date in March. I said, we're going to get to play with the 2 living Beatles. And he said, I can't. I got a gig. I said, who are you playing? He says, the Fab Four. I said, you're going to miss playing with the 2 living Beatles to play with your tribute band, but a gig is a gig, and the guys depended on him. So he didn't make it. But we had Paul McCartney. And I'm exactly, playing with a little help of my friends and actually hanging out with the 2 of them.
They're the greatest to hang with.
In between takes, rehearsal of help of my friend.
Yeah.
And just talking. And Paul says, Ringo sat down at the drums. John and I looked at each other and said, this could really be something. And I said, Ringo, you always knew how to swing. In each of these rock and roll tunes, there was always one element that was swinging and playing a shuffle against those. How did you know to do that? You made the records dance. He said, my dad. He always had Sarah Vaughan and Billy Eckstein, but same as my dad, and it sounds like same as your dad.
Oh, totally.
He says, so there'll always be a swing in my playing.
Have you ever had this problem? Not to interject, but I've had producers go, hey, don't swing so much. I'm like, really?
Don't swing so much.
Don't swing so much. When people got more and more in drum machines and programming and sequencing on all instruments, I'd be laughing, going, are you kidding me? Don't swing.
They want you to sound more mechanical, right?
Yeah. I have to play stiff.
Isn't that crazy?
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
But anyway, I didn't mean to interject.
Well, the ending of the story is, when I go to see Ringo, I always wish that there wasn't a second drummer, because I'd love to hear his feel. You can't really hear him when he's one of 2 drummers.
Yeah.
So I just, after McCartney said that, and that John said, wow, this could really be someone. I just paused and I said, but he won't play unless there's another drummer sitting beside him. And then there was another pause, and McCartney said, well, why should he?
For me, 50 years after seeing the Beatles, I got called by Don Watts to do the Beatles, the night that changed America, honoring them for the Ed Sullivan Show. So I got to play with Paul and Ringo.
Wonderful.
But 2 weeks before.
So you were the second drummer.
I was
playing with him. Yeah.
So, but 2 weeks, I did 4 songs or 3 songs, and the first one he played drums and sang "Boy."
Boys.
And then the next 2 songs, Yellow Submarine and something else, might have been a little help with my friends.
He just sings. He goes out front. Yeah.
2 weeks before he was being honored, the David Lynch Foundation honored him, and we did 4 songs together, and it was everything you're saying. It was like, that's the sound of the Beatles.
Yeah.
I mean, it's uncanny. I'm like staring at him. You can't analyze it. It is just what it is. And it was unbelievable.
Part of it is that swing.
It's a swing.
Yeah. And so underrated. People don't realize.
Well,
now they're starting to realize he's 80-something, and we're starting to realize what a great drummer was.
The thing was like,
he wasn't flashy.
When we were younger, think about it. We were growing up, and before rock and roll was like Tony Williams, Elvin Jones, all the Joneses, Buddy Rich, even Louis Bellson, and then you get these rock drummers like Charlie Watts and Ringo Starr, and everyone's like, well, they can't play. But nobody understood, wait a minute, it's not all about chops, Yeah. It's these guys that have strong personalities where their bands don't sound the same without them.
That's true. Yeah.
They just don't.
Couldn't replace them.
Do you play any other instruments besides piano?
I play a little drums.
And
as a matter of fact, I thought of it on the way over. And back in the days of Saturday Night Live, I played in Gilda Radner's live Broadway show.
Yeah, well, you did a Broadway show.
And she used to do a character like a Patti Smith type of character. And she and I would write the songs together.
Wow.
One was called, If You Look Close, You Can See My Tits.
Yeah.
But I want you to, but don't want you to know that I do. That was her title.
Oh, that's great.
And I would write them with her, and I would be the drummer because I can play a little basically.
Yeah.
And I remember the Broadway shows, because we had no wedges, no monitors.
Oh, right.
We had G.E. Smith on guitar. He went on to marry her. But
You did?
yes, he did. G.E. and Gilda were married for a few years, I think. Yes. You never knew.
I just learned something new.
How about that?
Wow.
Anyway, I went and I had sticks called primal sticks, this thick. Oh, just so I could hear myself. They could,
right.
boom, boom,
Right. Smart.
But I play a little drums.
Climate Manny's?
I think I probably did.
Yeah.
Do you remember the guy who were you in town when the guy, no, probably not, in New York. There was a street guy who used to play his sticks right on the street, right on the pavement.
I remember seeing different guys.
Sometimes just shorts, no shirt, and sometimes just playing.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I saw this guy in Manny's buying a new pair of sticks, and he took the cellophane off and went right out onto the street and started playing again.
There was some character in some movie, might have been Taxi Driver, who says, "Buddy,
I saw him live. I used to see him on the way to work down. Yeah, I would be doing a Broadway show at that time. My first job in New York was on Broadway. And yes, patent leather hair.
Yeah.
And he'd say, yeah, Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa, here's the duet, the drum duet. Rich, boom, 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 boom.
And he was good.
Yes, he was good, yeah.
Hey, what brought you to New York? I mean, you were doing the Godspell up there in Toronto, and you got to say, I mean, the cast was
I know. We're
SCTV, Saturday Night Live.
We were all still best friends now. Eugene Levy, Martin Short, Andrea Martin, Victor Garber.
Yeah.
I think I'm remembering. Gilda Radner was in it.
Yeah.
And Stephen Schwartz, the composer, just hired me up there. I was playing for a few people who were auditioning for him. And he said, I want to talk to that piano player. And he hired me for the show up there. And then he said, when this is over, I want to bring you into New York. And he did.
Oh,
to play his show called The Magic Show.
Yeah.
With the late magician Doug Henning.
Yeah.
And that was my first gig, 74.
How old were you then?
I was 24, going on 25.
And then Lorne Michael, who's Canadian, eventually he came in the city. And of course,
yes, with Howard. Howard Shore was also Canadian. Howard, I had just worked with Howard before leaving Toronto, and Howard knew I was in town doing the Magic Show. So that's how I got that call for SNL.
And the SNL thing, you did some great acting bits. That's like you never acted before. It was like they just threw you in there and you did it.
I was dying to get on camera, though, I'll admit it. And I did one little acting thing. I left the SNL in the second season to come here to Hollywood and do a pilot for Norman Lear, who we just lost, and Don Kirshner, the rock promoter and publisher, a Monkees type of show for the 70s. We did a pilot. It didn't succeed, but that's when I worked with this guy, Don Kirshner, who went on camera on his own in-concert show.
Yeah.
As
I did the last
guy in showbiz. You did?
I think I did with Mellencamp, but I think it might have been the last one.
Wow, I bet you did. And he started introducing the bands. I'm Don Kirshner. He was terrified and stiff as, and welcome to Rock Concert. Anyway, I did this once on SNL, and it was like a hit. I got to do it a couple of times and even introduced Belushi and Aykroyd as the Blues Brothers doing this.
Yeah.
When John Belushi, that.
Oh, you did like
Yeah.
Dude, you got to tell me, it's got to be a highlight of acting. Artie Fufkin in Spinal Tap. Dude, that scene, I even watched it last night. So I was dying. It was like one of the greatest.
This is you're referring to the Kick My Ass or in-store
radio. You have to. Well, how did you?
SNL, fifth year, a gentleman named Harry Shearer came into the cast. Yeah. He and I still close friends. We wrote some things together on SNL and performed a little bit together too. And he was one of the Spinal Tap guys. He was the bass player, Derek Smalls, and the four of them. Three of them with Rob Reiner wrote it together and everything. And he just said, for the local promo guy in Detroit, I've got this guy, Paul Shaffer. I think he could do it. And Harry just pushed for me. He's funny, believe me, you know, and he pushed for me and got me that part.
Wow.
And then I said, I remember saying to Harry, I'd love to do it, Harry. I said, so you send me my lines? He says, you'll be making them up, sir. And I said, why didn't, and sure enough, that's the way it was done. There were scene outlines.
Yeah.
You'll walk into the room, you'll try to get the band to come get up in the morning to do an in-store, you know, but there were no lines. You would just have to walk in and start talking, you know. So I remember being outside the room. Now, who are the guys? There's Derek, Nigel, who are the names? And then I'm supposed to the record label, Sir Dennis. I had to learn all this stuff and then walk into, you know, Nigel, great to see, you know, and amazing.
You know what was great about it? It's like you totally nailed the record company A&R guy. I mean, so you had some, I mean, at least you were familiar with A&R guys.
And promo, this actually was like a promotion man on a local level. So I had a friend, I was hanging out in the early days of SNL with an actual promo guy, and I don't know whatever happened to him. His name was Jim Knapp, and he, just having drinks with him and stuff, he hipped me to a lot of this jargon, promo jargon and stuff, and I could just use it. You know, I had to make up my own stuff.
That's great.
So I used a lot of his stuff verbatim.
Now they're doing a sequel
Mhm.
now. Have you?
I got a call from Rob. Absolutely, I should say an email. So if all goes well, I will be recreating my cameo on the idea. I mean, they're all a little bit older now.
Oh yeah, well,
I will be as well. What would this guy Artie Fufkin be doing now? I think they have an idea for that.
Dude, that you got to be, because that was like classic. There's so many classic scenes, but that was phenomenal.
What legs that film has! How long it stayed around, and now they're finally doing a sequel. Now, were you ever involved with them? Did you ever play?
No.
Because of course, the part of their thing in the movie was how the drummers kept dying on them.
Yeah, exactly.
One guy exploded.
Yeah.
But in real life too, they work with other drummers.
I haven't done that. No, I'm real good friends with a buddy of mine, C.J. Vanston.
Of course, yes, he works
with it. So, but I think we had dinner the other night, and he mentioned something about they have a drummer, and I said you might want to have 3 or 4 because they die, right? You know,
right.
But they got this is going to be brilliant.
On the original, they had two musicians, you know, 3 of them actors, and then a drummer and a keyboard player, musicians from bands, both actual British guys.
Yeah,
smart, so that they could, when they talked, they would have the real English guys.
Yeah.
The 3 of them were just trying to do English accents and succeeding. I shouldn't just say try. Criss guessed, of course, half English anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe fully English. I'm not sure.
Let's get to Letterman. I mean, how did you get that? You were right from the beginning.
Yes.
So who called you?
His manager is someone from his manager's office. And as a matter of fact, you know, I got a call right as my 5 years on SNL were ending, and everybody was leaving, and I left with the original cast. You know? And I got a call at that time to do, you know, David Letterman is having a morning show live in the morning, an hour live in the morning. Wants you to be band leader. And I just finished 5 years of SNL, and I don't know, he thought I'd live forever. And I just, morning, it just, I don't know. I passed on it. Now, Letterman still to this day says, you didn't do the morning show, couldn't get up that early. Duh. But they thought it, you know, so that show too hip for the room, I think, in the morning, and it didn't last. But boy, was it funny, and it was actually live. And then they called me again when he got, well, now he's going to do a show after the Tonight Show, start at 12:30 to 1:30. What do you say? And I said, well, now that's more like it. Even later than Johnny Carson. Now that's my kind of thing. Later, got to be hipper, you know, so. I was honored to take the job at that time. And just, you know, that was it. I went in for a meeting with Dave, and we kind of hit it off. He says he saw me on SNL.
Oh, yeah.
Mentioned the things, sketches I used to do with Bill Murray when he was the lounge singer.
Yeah.
Dave mentioned that and stuff, and claim, you know, and we got on. And he said, what kind of band would you have? And I remembered the topless bars of Canada. There was one hip one called the Zanzibar where they had an organ, a B3 organ on the bar, different organ players coming in. And I said, well, I'd do base it on the organ and do instrumental versions of R&B things. That's what I said to him. And he said, well, I've always thought of myself as the Wayne Cochran of comedy. And I said, what a reference, a little known regional the white James Brown from Miami, he mentions, I said, I got to work for this guy.
Yeah.
And I ended up working for him.
Oh my God. That was for us musicians, that was the coolest show in the world when that came out. Cause it was cool, man. Yeah. All the greatest musicians and the songs you would pick, the song selection was cool.
Just my favorite stuff, but everybody related to it.
Oh,
and these wonderful musicians of my first band with the late great Hiram Bullock on guitar.
Oh my God.
Will Lee, who was with me all the years, and Steve Jordan, my first drummer now in the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
But we played the songs that we all loved. And some of these guys, for the first time were admitting, this rock and roll, I've loved it all my life, but you kind of don't admit it, you want to be hip. If you're hanging with the Brecker brothers, you're going to talk about jazz, but turned out everybody loves to rock too.
Dude, that was incredible. So you got to tell me how you created the theme song, because that's the coolest theme song of any TV show ever. I mean,
thank you.
I mean, and was it like two versions of it? I remember doing.
There's been a lots of versions because, well, they kept changing the film, the opening collage.
So you wrote,
and and often when they would change it, they said, well, we want a new version. But they, all right, I'll come up with a new version, which I would do, and then they would start cutting it down, making it shorter. Worried that people were going to flip over to Leno.
Right.
Let's make it even shorter. So then I'd have to adjust it. And that's why it had all those weird bars. A bar of 7/8.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to match the hits on the film, but you had to they took a half a second out. Well, I've got to have a 7/8 bar. And it got very complicated to the
I remember the last time I did the show, it was like, what? This is 7/8.
Ridiculous.
Why'd they do that?
That's why.
And all the the triplets,
Yeah, I don't know. Just ideas that I had heard and that I just combined. But
so what was
and I always, the first thing later than Johnny Carson, I just pictured like a late night organ trio, and I just that's just kind of groove was in my head. That's all.
In the melody,
I don't know. Got those four chords, which is really just 2/5, 2/5, 1. And then I don't know, just
change. Good. Yeah, well, that's usually how genius comes. When I did that show, that was the highlight for me to play the theme, because you hear it. I remember being in the Mellencamp band, me and Toby, the bass player, is like, dude, I just love that theme. And did you hear it last night? Will went up an extra note, and that kind of thing. So,
and I did definitely, and I guess I learned this from Howard Shore, who on the Saturday Night Live theme, this is really his band, really maybe the first, contemporary. He had 5 horns, and an R&B kind of rhythm section.
Yeah.
And his theme was like open for the saxophone player to play Junior Walker style.
Oh, wow.
No melody written, just chords, and let the horn player improvise, and that kept it fresh. I said, that's how to do, live. So I did the same thing. I had solo sections where people could, and even, nothing really written. The bass line, Will could play it different every night, and he did.
And that's
keeps it fresh.
Keeps it fresh.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to tell me this. All right. You hosted the Letterman show like 4 times.
Well, man, I think only twice.
But anyway, the bottom line is
ridiculous.
What was that like? Because I mean, it's one thing to look at it, but then all of a sudden you have to do it. And then you have to hire an MD. And you're looking at a guy that is doing your job. You got to tell me what that whole thing.
The main thing is just I thought my job was hard, but Dave Letterman's job,
wow,
to carry the whole thing, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
Just nothing like it. There's so much pressure. He got so good at it, of course, but he worked very hard on it.
Oh,
so it was just incredibly hard. That's all I know.
What was the hardest thing about just because you just every second?
Just the knowledge that you are, it's all on you. You are getting cues. You got 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes with, I think we had the lovely actress who was in the Ray Charles movie.
Yeah.
Her name escapes me now, but she She got bigger and bigger in directs and everything. And I told her that just like her, I said, Dave pays me in ones too, just because. Remember Ray Charles got paid in ones so he could count it.
Yeah.
He was blind. Just that you've got everything on your shoulders. Steve Van Zandt was one of my guests, and we did a number. Love is a Beautiful Thing.
Oh yeah.
We did that at the end of the two of us.
Well, did you play? Did you actually go?
I went over. The two of us went over to the bandstand and joined the band.
Yeah.
And played a number.
Oh, that's awesome.
That would be like if I had a show, that's the way it would be. I'd be here on the panel and I'd go over there. And you would do a similar thing here, right? You get people to go across the hall.
I remember
play a little.
Yeah, I remember someone suggesting me do a show. I said, well, I'd want to be involved. I wouldn't want to be just a guy counting off. I'd want to be involved,
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this podcast, I don't have my drums here, but they're in that room, but maybe eventually that's what we're gonna get to.
I just got to appear on the Kelly Clarkson show.
Oh, you did that?
As you know, she's moved her show to New York.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
She's great, man.
She's great.
Incredible interviewer.
So she's in the old studio where we started Letterman when we were on at 12:30.
Oh my God, in NBC?
Yeah, and they had an idea, I would sit in and
in
kind
the
of
same room?
her. Yeah, same room. Can't recognize it, totally different set.
Yeah.
But they've got an MD, fantastic. And he, you mentioned how I'm talking to the band and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, now that, not only are they on ear monitors, but he's got like a little computer. And every cue coming up, he's just saying, okay, such and such cue coming out, here's a little taste. And he plays it for you.
Oh, wow.
On you, and then so you remember it, yeah. And then he counts it off. So everyone is like that. Here it is again. He plays it 2-3 times, so we can almost all learn it right
there.
While she's talking, yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That makes sense.
But there was one point, he said, "Here's a little taste," and I hear 2, 3, and I go and I play right in the middle of the interview.
Now you know what I felt like when I was playing for you.
There's always mistakes like that. Some worse than others.
Oh my God. What was one day preparing? What was a day in the life for you on Letterman show, or a week in the life? I mean, whatever way explains it the best. How did your day go?
Every day was different. Because some days we would be playing behind what we in TV would call an act. Playing either with a band or playing behind a singer, and other times not doing that. If we didn't have an act to play for, we would come in at about, I think, 10 to 4 and have 15 minutes to play, to work on our cues. It doesn't sound like a lot, but you only need, Jeff Stilson, so you only need 8 bars, yeah. So you don't have to, you don't have much of and I got to do it really quick. And I would also say, well, who, any funny ideas? Who thinks anybody got an idea for
whatever guest?
Yes, I don't know,
Mel Gibson.
I don't remember what we played from, but I remember when Ellen DeGeneres came out, and it was so courageous of her and she had a sitcom, and somebody, what should we play for Ellen? Somebody said, I'm a girl watcher. Perfect. And so I would take suggestions, learn the funniest 8 bars of I'm a Girl Watcher, and just go.
What about like at night, were you getting calls from David? Hey, listen, tomorrow, blah, blah, blah.
Sometimes you would. Sometimes we would prepare a little the night before. Mostly, though, I get a call. Well, I'd have an assistant who would go and attend the meeting at 11 a.m. I knew I couldn't get up that early.
Yeah.
Good. I'm not. And then he would call me and say, okay, this is how the show is laying out now. First act's going to be this, second act of it. But I eventually learned, don't pay attention to this. It's all going to be different. By the time I get in there at 3:30, 2 or 3, everything's going to change. And it did, So once I got in there, the show was so damn loose. You wouldn't believe it. And skin of your teeth. It never got easier. But that was, what was so much fun about it, yeah. And especially in the old days, we got away with, on NBC, we got away with murder, loose mistakes, leave it in, cheaper.
How about this mistake? You were the first guy to say fuck on SNL.
That's on SNL. And
that was a mistake that they...
You're remembering something that I'm not proud of it. Yes, it was an absolute mistake because it was a little improv. Normally, there's not much improv on SNL. It's scripted. scripted and blocked.
Wow.
They want to know, there's a close up here, there's going to be a two-shot.
Yeah.
You know, everything is very much rehearsed. But in this case, Franken and Davis, the great comedy team,
Yeah.
Al Franken became a senator for a hot minute.
Yeah.
Davis no longer with us. They took I don't know if you ever remember that thing that circulated in the music business, the Trogs tape.
Oh, absolutely. Pata, boom.
Yeah.
Play it again, right? Is that one? Yeah.
Exactly. Trogs, of course, big band when the British invasion did Wild Thing.
Yeah.
And a tape that circulated and behind the scenes, them in the studio trying to record a follow-up. And they don't know how to tell. They have no musical terminology. They don't know how to express themselves in the studio. All they can do is say, the fucking beat. You had the fucking beat. Pata, pata, boom. You had it before, mate. So Franken and Davis said, it'd be funny to take these lines, but transpose them and make it a medieval band rehearsing for the king, about to do a concert for the king. And they're rehearsing and they say the Trogs lines, but of course you can't say the fucking beat. We'll make up our own word, the flogging beat. And so I was in it, saying those lines. You had the flogging beat before, and I was getting big laughs. And Franken in the middle, between dress and air, said, you're doing so well with those flogging. If you want to add a few more,
there you go.
Be my guest. Well, he shouldn't have said that because I got loose. I was saying the flogging this and the flogging that, and then I slipped and I said the fucking beat. And then my face went white. I've seen the tape. Just, oh my God, what have I done? And I look like, oh my God. And then I said, wait, where are we in the sketch? I come back. But I thought my career's over.
But they kept it.
Lorraine Newman said, at the end of it, she says, well, you just made broadcasting history. And when Lorne Michaels came over, he said, well, you just broke down the last barrier. They knew I didn't do it on purpose.
Of course not.
Guys got fired for doing it on purpose later. But I didn't, and it was all... And yeah, they kept it. They edited it, I think, for like the West Coast later. Nobody complained because we were all trying to do bad British accents.
Yeah.
You couldn't quite tell.
It didn't like jump out.
Wasn't so bad.
And also, didn't they have a 7-second delay on SNL?
Only when they thought they needed it, like when Richard Pryor did it.
Oh.
The 7th show, I think. They had a 7-second delay. Yeah.
So
Not
they did
all the time.
Oh.
So there was no delay on this.
Whoa.
It just goes out. Yeah.
You made 2 solo records, right?
Yes.
Are you going to do another? Or are you...
Oh, I don't know.
itching the...
I don't know. Is there a market for an old guy doing a record?
You'd have to just
want to do it.
Yes, want to do it.
I'll tell you, I do. As a producer, I've got a new piece of product I just finished.
Oh, good.
Since I was in college, I've been playing with an esoteric jazz musician named Tisziji Muñoz. Plays guitar like nobody. He's not blues-based. He's more Coltrane-based. And I have been playing in his band. It's just so avant-garde. There's no music, no nothing. Everybody just plays. And I finished a record with him. I got to see if I can get somebody to put it out. I hope that you get to hear it. It's like, From Beyond. It's outer space.
Yeah. I'll have to check it out. That sounds amazing. You played on a lot of people's records.
Did a lot of records. Not like you, though. I look around the studio and say, wow, you played on a lot of records. But yes, in the 70s, I started doing it in the 70s.
Are you playing on people's records now?
Yeah, here and there.
Yeah.
Here and there.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just, get a call. We'll send you the files.
Yeah.
It's a little different.
Do you have a studio?
No, I don't. But I have had people, most recently, Peter Criss.
Oh, yeah.
Our friend from Kiss.
Yeah, I love Peter.
Came over, with an engineer, a laptop, and a couple of mics and recorded my organ. I got James Brown's organ in my apartment that I bought at an estate sale.
Oh, my God.
And it plays itself. It's so funky. So I recorded, so I can record at home and stuff. And there are still some studios, not so much in Manhattan. You got to go to Jersey and stuff.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
That's what happened. All those great studios. Who thought the Hit Factory would close? All those gorgeous rooms, and I don't know if Right Track's still there. all this stuff. I think the Quad's still there. Quad's still there.
Quad. If it is, it's,
more R&B. Rap. And
That's
then
right.
the power station got bought
By
by
Berkeley, but School of Music, but still running. You can still
God.
buy time.
It's one of the greatest rooms in New York.
It sure is.
All right, so what? You don't look like a guy that has a 5-year plan because just everything is just grooving and going and happening.
I think that's the way it was all
Yeah,
this time.
me too.
Things just happen.
So, do you have anything that you haven't done that you're thinking I want to do this? Something that
Not necessarily. I do have a symphony show,
Oh wow,
which I've gotten to do 4 times, 4 different orchestras,
wow,
and it's just all pop stuff that I love. And I take a rhythm section.
oh,
And Valerie Simpson has been my special guest on all these gigs that I've done. So she sings all her symphonic, Ain't No Mountain High Enough symphonically and stuff.
God.
And I just do my favorite stuff. I start off with Barry White Love's Theme. What? Come on, and end with Day in the Life
Oh my
by the
God.
Beatles. And, in between just all the stuff I love. So I that's what I hope to do more of, or orchestral.
Oh man, that.
And let's face it, it's, you think our pop music is a dying breed. Imagine how the orchestral musicians
Oh my God.
feel, because the computer can replace us all.
So I asked Sammy Hagar this one. I said, hey man, so when did you realize your purpose in life? And he goes, my purpose has changed. He says, Kenny, that's a good question, because you know what? Actually, my purpose has changed. At first, it was like, man, I want to be a rock star, and it's about me. And now his whole thing is about giving, and it's all about them.
Nice.
Is your purpose changed at all, or are you still just, this is what I've always wanted to be, and I became this, and I'm still digging it till.
Well, I think that when I had kids and had a family with my wife, that becomes one's purpose.
Yeah.
Really. And I couldn't be. My kids are grown now, but I'm so proud of how well they're doing.
Oh,
and I think that's got to, that does take over. And now I just love to play. I'm realizing that with all the show busy stuff I got to do, really playing the piano and the organ is my favorite. And I'm practicing again. I wasn't really practicing during Letterman, playing all the time,
Yeah, right.
But I'm getting better.
That's awesome.
There's a joke about it. I think Pablo Casals, the cellist, he's 101. He says, I think I'm finally making some progress, But that's the way that's the way it is. I'm getting some things together technically. I think drummers relate to this more than other
man, I have to
musicians.
practice all the time to just do the same stuff I do.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, me too. I didn't have to practice before, but now I'm practicing and enjoying it.
That's so cool.
Played a little gig with some of our friends at the Bitter End the other day.
Oh.
And I really had a great time.
Oh man, thank you so much for
This is fun.
coming on, hanging. It's like I'm looking at my twin. As a matter of fact, you met my twin. Do you remember me?
Carmine Rojas.
No, it wasn't Carmine. My actual twin. It was Bob Ezra and you on the street, and I was walking to do rehearsal, and then there's the 4 of us, and people were like, there's 3 of them.
But Ezrin is not a ball.
No, but my twin brother was with me, and
Oh, your twin brother, I remember now.
I had just shaved his head.
Yes.
I said, come to the rehearsal. I said, John, you got to shave your head. He had and I had some clipper, and the clipper came off, and he went, what'd you do? I went, you're going to have to shave your head. And we walked right out.
That was the day.
And I never saw you on the street.
Where's your twin brother now?
He's in Stockbridge. He's a psychoanalyst.
Oh, good.
And he shaved his head every day.
Yes.
I mean, this keeps the gray hair off,
There's something to it.
Yeah. Anyway, Paul, thanks, dude.
Pleasure, Kenny.
Incredible.
Pleasure. Let's make a record together soon.
Yeah, we will.
Okay. I can't really play.